Hey guys, good to see you all again. We're doing a 5-minute chat again on what is happening on earth. This is taken from the Genesis chapter 1, verse 10 account. So, as we read there, Genesis chapter 1, verse 10, and Elohim called the dry land earth, and the gathering of the waters he called sea. And Elohim saw that it was good. So it seems to me like he gathered the waters on one side as he pulled it off to the side, and suddenly the land appears. And the land is like just shooting up into the skies because the waters were all gathered to one side. So half the earth was water and half the earth was land. It seems that way. So let the waters be gathered in one place and let the dry land appear. Of course, in the early days when they were still very primitive, they call it land instead of earth. They didn't know what a round earth looks like. Land was the reference that was used in the early days. Now, the reason for all of this is because of the love of God's apple of God's eye and the one that is created in his image and likeness. So even from the dust of the ground, he took and made man and breathed into his nostrils, and he became a living being. So this was the love of his life. But he gave him some rules and instructions to follow, which he didn't. And so sin entered the world. Now, because of sin, because of the consequence of free will, God has to reset it. Can you look at Cain's line that went away, and out of Cain came Lamech? Cain was given a sevenfold protection. Lamech wanted a 70 times sevenfold protection. So it was that sin that ripened, that God's long suffering and grace continued to be showed upon all of his people that he loves. So God also have to take the other side of the equation, which is to hear the cries of the innocent that has been brutally killed or maimed or whatever victims they have become. So he had to reset his creation. So as you see the flood water gushing from the side of the earth into the land from that one side, uh, out of the ground too water was gushing. So God chose Noah, who was the righteous person, and a company of 8 to repopulate the whole world, and he had to be on an ark designed by God for him. And the whole world was flooded, and it also was for more than a year. Now, there is another account that's going to happen, and we see the prelude of this in a future reset that's going to take place. And this is an account in Genesis, chapter 18, verse 32. We see the Lot issue. Lot is nephew of Abraham, and Abraham was talking to God in the form that he was in that time, and he was negotiating that if 10 people were alive, would he destroy this place, because God was bent on destroying Sodom, because Sodom was ripened with sin to a point where he couldn't take it anymore. The sin of Sodom is the word sodomy, and all of its relationships to it, same-sex relationships and everything that pertains to that kind of a sin. So we kind of get a glimpse of it as we live in our times. Is it coming as norm in our current day? That's what we need to do and look out for, because the bridegroom is always going to come for a bride who is without spot or wrinkle. And that's what we need to be most concerned about. So in the final day, there will be a reset, and fire will destroy the whole earth, and there's going to be new heavens, new earth, and new Jerusalem, as we find in Revelation 21, verse 22, verse 2 and 3. God will tabernacle with his people forever and ever. And that's how it'll all end. It'll be good to know it and be there at that time. Thank you for listening. See you guys soon.